This is our AS Media evaluation question 7.
Looking back to your preliminary task, what do you feel that you have learnt in the progression from it to the full product? So from the progression of our preliminary task to our final product, our preliminary task consisted of us producing a match in action for each of us walking into a room, grabbing a door handle and sitting onto a chair. And this involved quick fire cuts from 3 different angles.
Just 3 shots, just 3 cuts, and put it together.
And this allowed us to learn how to use a DSLR camera for the first time, how to function...
How to edit as well.
How to function the lens to make it zoom, and also use a tripod, which we're using right now to film this whole thing.
There you go.
But also, the preliminary task actually took us quite a bit of time to edit, to get to learn how to use the software, because none of us had ever used it.
Yeah, the first time you do it, it's never
is it Final Cut?
Final Cut Pro.
That was the first time any of us had ever used it. Yeah, and we never used cameras or tripods because none of us are particularly into filming or anything like that. But also what we learned from the preliminary task is how to actually structure the shot. So like you said, with the quick fire edits. But you don't just take one take. So you don't just do one shot of opening the door. You actually then have to go and take 3 or 4 different takes from different angles. So you get a different perspective on each. Because some of them aren't quite right when you look at it back.
In addition to that, the whole purpose of match in action is to produce continuity and make the whole sequence flow.
And look invisible.
Another thing that we learned from our preliminary task is this was especially useful for Tim, who was the person filming. Was in our scene when we were coming out with the camera in the boot, which was actually Tim in the boot.
I was in the boot.
The camera. You had to do. You can talk about the
oh yeah. So
what's it called?
Aperture.
The aperture. The first time we did it, I'd sit in the boot, filming into light. I'd open the boot, and the screen would just wipe, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
With white.
The white balance was really unbalanced.
Yeah,
so we just changed the aperture so many times.
Well, we did that afterwards. First time we did it, we didn't have a clue, and we thought it looked okay when it really didn't, and it looked like it. So we did practice shots. We'd put a hand over the lens and uncover it by changing the aperture before. And
so we actually made we had to go and ask one of our friends, someone else doing the course, who's used to cameras, he has his own, and he suggested that because of the difference, instead of having it on auto
manual,
they put it on a manual and have the size of the aperture about as small as possible, whilst not
less lighting.
We also made it the priority setting to the aperture, so the aperture was prioritised for the camera itself. Also, in terms of preliminary tasks, after we'd done our match in action, we progressed to doing our lift pitch and a spoof of our lift pitch, where we learnt many filming techniques throughout that, such as building tension and shot and reaction shots.
We did that through the we kind of did it where it was a parody of Fistful of Dollars, the standoff at the end. So it was the good, the bad, and the ugly. So like eye shots, close-ups of the gun, just repeating the shot.
Every shot.
And so we actually then incorporated that, which that was also kind of a preliminary task for us.
Also, a soundtrack was added to that, and that was the first time where we used and manipulated sound, and also added a bit of non-diegetic and Foley sound.
So in The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, the bit with the eyes and the guns, we then incorporated that into our actual film. So in the end bit of our film, in the end of the film, when we got the guy with the gun to the head, we do close-ups of their eyes, and especially in the car as well. We focus up on the gun. We focus on like
facial expressions.
Yeah,
really
and they're shaking, and it was very derivative of the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly scene.
Every little detail.
And with both sequences, for the title sequence and the opening sequence, we had one day of filming where we treat it as a preliminary task in itself. So, for example, in the title sequence, our original idea was to have lateral movement around the object where the text would come out, and that didn't really work out on our preliminary task, which we've discussed throughout our blog, and that has helped us develop and learn myself on After Effects and get more comfortable with the software. That was also in itself on the opening sequence where I developed the character animations and kept up. Once I started doing so many character animations, it became second nature and become again more comfortable with editing software.
We wanted smooth footage at all times, or most times, to make it look more professional, and firstly we just thought we'd hold the camera and try and get it smooth just by holding it, which didn't work.
As well as adding a warp stabilizer feature
Yeah.
within After Effects.
So on our first time we recorded our preliminary task, that's what we did. We used our hands, which didn't work. We ended up having to do it in editing. So in the task sequence we wanted this smooth movement across each object, and obviously we couldn't get there with our hands, so we figured a way to edit it. I don't know how you
That's
did it.
what we did with that, is we got still shots and zoomed in a little bit on the editing software, got a null object and panned it across the whole thing, so it gives the illusion that you actually.
It was the best. It was the best way to do it. We tried different rigs. We tried just moving a tripod on wheels, which didn't work. A chest rig that didn't do it.
The chest rig we used for the car scene and some tracking shots, but it just
It just
didn't
wasn't
work.
smooth enough. So that's what we learned from our preliminary to get smooth footage. From
The second time we were doing one of our shots, rehearsals, we actually had a shoulder rig, which actually worked probably
that
better
was
than
right, yeah,
what we
that's
had in the end. But unfortunately, we could only ever get that once.
Yeah, and we
and
couldn't use it again.
We somewhat wasted the opportunity.
So we stuck to smoothing it out in editing, which worked best really.
In addition to that, tripods were used throughout many shots in both the opening sequence
Yeah,
and the title
still
sequence,
shots. Yeah.
which was beneficial from our preliminary task, which gives us credit to the preliminary task for allowing us to learn different techniques to use within our final piece.
Well said.
In our first preliminary task with the match on action on the door, that was where we first thought about Foley sound. So instead of filming opening the door and all of that at the same time, so each shot the door with audio, we did that, and then afterwards in post-production we re-recorded the Foley sound of steps, the door opening and all of that, which Wardy then readdressed in the final product.
Yep.
Yeah, it just adds to everything. Exaggerated sounds just makes it seem better, and ambient sound as well. Just adds to it.
We definitely learnt a lot from our lift pitch in terms of Foley sound and the first use of proper soundtrack.
Morning. Hi, my name is Idris Ilya. I'd like to make a film actually. We've got a really good idea. It starts off with two gangsters in a car,
That's where we started using different Foley sound, non-diegetic sound and diegetic sound, as well as ambient sound as well, to create all sorts of effects to enhance the viewing experience. And this ultimately made our final product a lot better. And throughout this whole progression, I think collectively as a group we've learnt a lot with using different media products, and we're more comfortable when using them in the future for any other media products that we may produce.
Lighting. When the match on action task, we had natural lighting, which was obviously really bright. I don't think we played around with that much, did we? In the editing room, lighting on the match on action thing. But when we did our title sequence preliminary, the room was weird. There was streaks of light coming into it on the objects, but we tried to get as much light on things as possible so we can.
especially faces.
Yeah. Try to get as much light on things as possible, so in editing we can dim them down, because it's better to start with dark and then try and make a lighter than it. It's better to.
An example of one thing which we have learnt from our preliminary task is the use of natural lighting, like artificial lighting. Like we are using a light now to light up our faces. That's another thing which we've learnt and progressed to use in our own media products.
Yeah, light has got a lot to do with colours as well. If like colour grading.
Yeah.
So, go on, say something.
So with colour grading, you can change all sorts of features within the light, colour balance and the white balance. So you can reduce exposure to make things look a lot dimmer, which is some things that we used in terms of like the transitions in the title sequence. I messed about with the exposure, which changed the lighting of the whole image itself. As seen on the screen, it gets really bright and kind of colourful as well. Another thing is you can change the levels of the picture, which again changes the lighting, which was something that we did in the opening sequence as well, which we didn't learn from the matching act and the lift pitch. That was what we learned from our preliminary tasks that we produced ourselves with the opening sequence and the title sequence. And that essentially helped us as we went along to learn new things. And if we encountered any problems, we could iron it out by
editing,
developing new techniques and refilming as well.
Yeah, it's true. We've done a lot of things. Yeah, so we just wanted to dim things down, give everything a film look, and yeah.
So that was our question 7 in the end of our evaluation questions. Thanks for watching.
See ya.